Krishna's divine abilities were not just strategic, they were supernatural. It was said that Krishna could manipulate the very forces of nature, summon celestial weapons, and alter the course of events with his divine will. His presence on the battlefield was a source of immense power for the Pandavas, and his interventions often tipped the scales in their favor. One of the most significant moments of divine intervention came when Krishna used his Sudarsana Chakra, a divine disc weapon, to protect Arjuna and the Pandavas. On several occasions, Krishna used his divine weapons to neutralize the attacks of powerful enemies, including the mighty Karna, who had been one of the greatest warriors of the Kaurava side. Krishna's support also extended to the psychological and emotional realms. He encouraged Arjuna to keep fighting even when the odds seemed insurmountable. He reminded the Pandavas that their struggle was not just for a kingdom, but for the triumph of good over evil, righteousness over corruption, and Dharma over adharma. As the Battle of Kurukshetra reached its climax, Krishna's divine role became even more pronounced. It was Krishna who ensured that the Pandavas emerged victorious despite the many challenges they faced. His guidance and divine intervention were the key factors in their success as he continued to support them at every turn. In the final moments of the battle, Krishna's strategic brilliance and supernatural powers helped the Pandavas overcome their fiercest opponents. Karna, who had been invincible until then, was ultimately defeated through Krishna's intervention. It was Krishna who revealed the secret of Karna's vulnerability to Arjuna, allowing him to strike a decisive blow and secure victory for the Pandavas. Krishna's blessings were not just limited to the battlefield. After the war, when the Pandavas finally ascended to their kingdom and claimed their rightful throne, Krishna's role as a protector and guide continued. He had helped them through their darkest times, and now they were ready to fulfill their destiny as rulers of Hastinapura. On the morning of the first day on the Kurukshetra battlefield, the sun's rays shone brightly over the vast land, but the atmosphere was already thick with the energy of war. The scene on the battlefield was a strange combination of grandeur and sorrow, courage and ruthless brutality. Smoke rose from the war chariots, the sound of war horns echoed across the air, and every movement on the battlefield felt like a dance of destiny. Thousands of warriors from both sides, the Pandavas and Kauravas, stood ready for the brutal conflict ahead. Warriors on both sides had unwavering courage and steadfast loyalty. The great heroes of both sides, like Arjuna, Bhima, Karna, and Duryodhana, stood firm in the midst of the battlefield, preparing for a battle that would go down in history. Arjuna, the greatest warrior of the Pandavas, stood with his Gandiva bow in hand on his chariot, his eyes blazing with the fire of battle. Bhima, the mighty hero of the Pandavas, gripped his iron mace, ready to face any challenge. Karna, the great warrior of the Kauravas, smiled with confidence, eager to confront the strongest opponents. Duryodhana, the leader of the Kauravas, remained unyielding even though he knew his decisions would lead to a blood-soaked war. The Kurukshetra battlefield became the site of a grand struggle between good and evil, where each warrior fought not just to win but to uphold the values they represented. It was not only a physical battle but also a war of courage, strategy, sacrifice, and the higher ideals each side stood for. As the war horns sounded, battle began in earnest. Both sides charged into the fray, showing no mercy. Arjuna, the mightiest warrior of the Pandavas, with Krishna by his side, launched the first attack. On the battlefield, Arjuna courageously faced thousands of Kaurava warriors. But at this moment, he began to feel a surge of fear creeping into his heart. Before him stood the immense Kaurava army, which included his teachers and family members, such as Bhishma, Drona, and Karna. However, despite his hesitation, Arjuna pushed forward, encouraged by Krishna's guidance. Krishna was not only his charioteer but also his advisor, mentor, and friend. In these challenging moments, Krishna's wisdom and support helped Arjuna regain his courage, reminding him of his duty and purpose. Duryodhana, standing across from Arjuna, observed his every move with quiet confidence. Even though he faced an extraordinary opponent, Duryodhana did not waver. He knew that victory could only be achieved if he remained steadfast and clever in his tactics. The battle between Arjuna and Duryodhana was not simply a confrontation between two warriors, but a clash of ideals. Arjuna, fighting for justice and righteousness, could not accept the cruelty and evil that Duryodhana represented. Duryodhana, driven by blind ambition for power, was determined not to yield. Alongside Arjuna, Bhima, the mighty hero of the Pandavas, played a crucial role on the battlefield. With his immense strength, Bhima easily overpowered numerous enemies. He fought not only with physical power but also with a deep-seated hatred toward Kaurava, especially Duryodhana. Throughout the battle, Bhima sought opportunities to avenge the wrongs done to his family, including the death of Kunti and the suffering his family endured from Kaurava's betrayal. Meanwhile, Karna, the great warrior of Kaurava, demonstrated that fighting was not only about strength but also about strategy and skill. With his unwavering loyalty to Duryodhana, Karna fought fiercely to protect Kaurava. His combination of loyalty and extraordinary martial ability made him one of the most formidable opponents on the battlefield. One of the most notable clashes on the battlefield was the brutal duel between Bhima and Karna. Despite Bhima's tremendous strength, Karna, with his superior fighting skills and the divine weapons he wielded, posed a serious challenge. The battle between these two warriors was fierce and uncompromising. Both fought with unyielding resolve, showcasing the brutality and sacrifice of each side. The fight between Bhima and Karna became a symbol of the ferocity of war and the relentless spirit of the warriors. Throughout the battle, Krishna was more than just a charioteer for Arjuna. He was a divine strategist, offering guidance that would ultimately decide the outcome of the war. As the incarnation of Vishnu, Krishna possessed infinite wisdom and understanding of the battlefield's dynamics. One of the key strategies Krishna employed was helping Arjuna maximize his abilities. Rather than solely relying on brute strength, Krishna encouraged Arjuna to combine his strategic skills with his precision as an archer. Krishna's presence on the battlefield was a divine protection for the Pandavas, offering them confidence and clarity in their path to victory. Krishna also assisted Arjuna in executing military tactics, including surprise attacks and dispersing the enemy. His tactics ensured that even with their superior numbers, the Kaurava forces were often caught off guard and their attempts to retaliate failed. These strategies not only helped Pandava gain an advantage but also made it clear that even with a vast army, Kaurava was not invincible. The Battle of Kurukshetra was not merely a physical confrontation but also a spiritual and moral battle. Each warrior, whether Arjuna, Bhima, or Duryodhana, had to face significant challenges in their hearts and minds. These warriors fought not just for their survival but for their beliefs, for justice, and for their families. On the battlefield, warriors were often faced with tremendous pain, loss, and the need to sacrifice their lives for a greater cause. Courage was shown not only in physical combat but also in the willingness to sacrifice everything for something greater than oneself. These moments on the battlefield became a testament to the resilience and determination of the Pandavas, as well as the unyielding will of the Kauravas. As the war entered its final stages, the duel between Arjuna and Karna became the focal point of the conflict. Karna, despite his loyalty to Duryodhana, could not deny his extraordinary prowess as a warrior. Arjuna, under Krishna's guidance, was now ready for this ultimate confrontation. In the final moments of the battle, Krishna's divine intervention became decisive. Krishna helped Arjuna discover Karna's hidden weakness, allowing him to land a fatal blow and secure victory for the Pandavas. However, the cost of this victory was not cheap, as every warrior on the battlefield had to face death and sacrifice in order to achieve success. The battle on Kurukshetra was not only a clash between great warriors but also a decisive struggle between righteousness and evil, between Dharma and Adharma. It was only when the war ended that the survivors could fully comprehend the cost of victory and the devastating consequences of the conflict they had fought. The Battle of Kurukshetra had reached its peak, and the moment everyone had been waiting for had finally arrived: the battle between Arjuna, the greatest warrior of the Pandavas, and Karna, the formidable hero of the Kauravas. This was not just a physical confrontation, it was a clash of destinies, a battle that would shape the future of the Kuru dynasty and echo through the pages of history. It was the moment when loyalty, sacrifice, and divine intervention converged to determine the fate of the warriors and the kingdom. The conflict between Arjuna and Karna was inevitable. From the very beginning of the Mahabharata, Karna had been a loyal friend to Duryodhana, the leader of the Kauravas, and had fought valiantly for the Kaurava cause. His loyalty to Duryodhana was unwavering, and he had been one of the fiercest opponents of the Pandavas. Despite his virtues as a warrior, Karna's life was marked by the shadows of injustice. Born to the unwed Kunti, Karna's true identity was hidden from the world, and his connection to the Pandavas remained unknown for much of his life. Arjuna, on the other hand, was the son of Kunti and Pandu, raised alongside his brothers as part of the royal family. As a warrior, Arjuna was unmatched, with skills honed over years of training. His weapon of choice, the Gandiva bow, was a symbol of his prowess. With Krishna as his charioteer and divine guide, Arjuna was unstoppable. However, his heart was burdened by the realization that he would have to fight against his own kin, and most significantly against Karna, who, like him, was an exceptional warrior and a key figure in the war. The stage for their battle had been set. Karna, although aware of Arjuna's abilities, had always harbored a sense of rivalry and hatred toward him. Both were great warriors, but their destinies were very different. Arjuna, the beloved son of Kunti, had been crowned as the rightful heir to the throne of Hastinapura. Karna, on the other hand, had been denied his rightful place in society because of his low birth, leading him to become an outcast. His determination to fight against the Pandavas was not just for his friend Duryodhana, but also to prove his worth and avenge the injustices he had faced throughout his life. As the battle on Kurukshetra raged on, the moment arrived when Arjuna and Karna faced each other on the battlefield. The two warriors stood at the center of the battlefield, the ground beneath their feet trembling with the force of their presence. The Pandavas and Kauravas alike watched in anticipation, knowing that this duel would determine the course of the war. Krishna, the charioteer of Arjuna, guided him toward the confrontation. The sound of their chariots clashing against the earth could be heard as Arjuna, with his Gandiva bow, and Karna, with his celestial armor, prepared for the duel. Both warriors, fully aware of the significance of this moment, were resolute in their intentions. Arjuna sought to protect righteousness and justice, while Karna fought to prove his honor and loyalty. Krishna's voice was calm yet powerful, offering Arjuna guidance and encouragement. Remember your Dharma, Arjuna. This battle is not just about winning, but about fulfilling your duty and destiny. Karna is your equal, but he stands on the side of injustice. Fight with all your might, and may victory favor the righteous. As the battle began, the earth itself seemed to tremble under the weight of their confrontation. Arjuna unleashed a flurry of arrows, each one aiming with precision at Karna. The sound of the bowstring being drawn and released filled the air, and the arrows cut through the air like lightning. Karna, on the other hand, deflected each attack with his armor and shield, his own bow releasing arrows with equal ferocity. It was a battle of equals, each strike a testament to their extraordinary skill and unwavering will. Karna, however, was not just a mortal warrior. His strength was augmented by his divine origins. He had received several powerful boons throughout his life, including the invincible armor, kavacha, and earrings kundala that protected him from harm. These gifts were granted to him by the sun god, Surya, who was his father. These divine gifts made Karna nearly indestructible, and no ordinary weapon could pierce through his defenses. Even Arjuna, with his remarkable skill and divine weapons, found himself struggling against the immense power Karna wielded. Despite the immense strength of Karna, Arjuna's determination did not falter. He knew that his purpose was greater than just the battle itself. It was the survival of Dharma, the victory of righteousness over unrighteousness. Krishna, sensing that the moment had arrived, began to offer Arjuna subtle guidance from his chariot. Arjuna, the battle is not over. Karna has one weakness. His chariot wheel is stuck in the mud. Strike now. At this critical juncture, Krishna's intervention played a decisive role. Karna, struggling to free his chariot, was temporarily vulnerable. It was a moment that could shift the tide of the battle. Arjuna hesitated for a moment, but Krishna's reminder gave him the clarity he needed. He released a single arrow that struck Karna's chariot, killing him in the most crucial moment. Karna, who had fought valiantly and honorably throughout the war, was now defeated. The fall of Karna was not just a victory for Arjuna, but a moment of deep sorrow for the warriors on both sides. Karna's death marked the end of an era of unyielding loyalty and sacrifice. He had given his all to Duryodhana and the Kaurava cause, and his final moments reflected the complexities of war, where heroes often find themselves on opposing sides. Karna's death was not just a loss for the Kauravas, but also for Arjuna, who had always respected his opponent. Both Arjuna and Karna had fought with great honor, but their destinies had been shaped by different forces, Arjuna by his divine guidance and dharma, and Karna by his loyalty and desire for revenge against the injustices he had faced. It was a bitter victory for Arjuna, as he knew that defeating such a noble warrior came at a cost that would weigh heavily on his heart. As Karna fell from his chariot, his final words reflected the agony and sense of betrayal he had felt throughout his life. Despite being the greatest warrior on the battlefield, Karna had never been able to escape his past. He was denied the recognition and honor that he truly deserved because of his low birth, which had led him to fight for Duryodhana with unparalleled loyalty. In his last moments, Karna's thoughts turned to the family he had left behind, the sacrifices he had made, and the loyalty he had sworn to Duryodhana. His death was not just the end of a battle, but a poignant reminder of the complexities of duty, honor, and the devastating effects of fate. Arjuna, having defeated Karna, stood silently on the battlefield, his chest heaving with exhaustion. He had won the battle, but the weight of the victory pressed down on him. Arjuna knew that he had not only defeated a great warrior, but also ended the life of someone who had been shaped by his own struggles, by his loyalty and love for his friend Duryodhana. Krishna, ever present, placed a hand on Arjuna's shoulder. "Do not mourn for Karna, Arjuna. He was a great warrior, but he was bound by his own fate. You have fought for righteousness, and it was your duty. Let not sorrow cloud your victory." For Arjuna, the battle was far from over. Although Karna had fallen, the war was still raging, and the fate of the kingdom of Hastinapura still hung in the balance. The loss of Karna was a significant turning point, but it was only one of many struggles that lay ahead. Thus, the battle between Arjuna and Karna, while ending in victory for Arjuna, highlighted the moral and emotional complexities of war. It was a contest not only of physical strength but also of loyalty, destiny, and the harsh realities of human conflict. The sun had barely risen, casting a soft golden light across the vast Kurukshetra battlefield. The air was thick with the tension of the coming battle, a tension that weighed heavily on Arjuna's heart. The entire battlefield was filled with the sounds of preparation, warriors assembling, chariots being readied, and the war drums of both the Pandavas and the Kauravas echoing through the air. Yet, in the midst of this, Arjuna found himself standing still, his heart heavy with doubt. Arjuna was not a man who feared battle. He had spent years training under the greatest masters, and his skills with the bow and arrow were unmatched. But now, as he stood at the edge of the battlefield looking out over the thousands of warriors who would soon clash in a violent contest for the throne of Hastinapura, something changed within him. He could see the faces of his friends, his teachers, his family, people he loved on both sides of the conflict. This was no longer a battle for glory or honor. It was a battle that would tear apart the very fabric of his life. As Arjuna surveyed the scene, he realized the full magnitude of what was about to happen. He saw his own cousins, the Kauravas, lined up in opposition to him. He saw Duryodhana, the one who had caused so much suffering for his family, his great enemy, ready to fight to the death. But even so, Arjuna's heart was torn. How could he raise his bow against his own family members? How could he strike down men he had once played and learned with? Thank you for listening to today's story. To hear the whole story, please watch the next part of the video. Don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification button to receive the latest videos.